So that is what she said. It's divine form, and disappeared. And then he became more furious, and he gave orders to his soldiers to go into the villages and kill every newborn child.
L'histoire avec Jésus.
Yeah, that's it.
Avec Moïse.
Yes,
Yes.
just like,
The same story.
yeah,
But it's the same as what they have in the...
Same story.
in the Bible, in the Old Testament.
Yes.
Moïse was... they should know, they cannot.
And he has, this fellow, this Kamsa, he approached another black magician, and who was this black magician who was a disciple of another rishi, but he misused his what he got his power, and he helped Kamsa to produce certain forms, astral forms, to send to kill Krishna. That was the first in the form of a lady who wanted to give poison through her milk, but she got destroyed. This is not physical, but she came physically, but her astral form was destroyed by Krishna, and she was relieved from that bondage of astral. Because this was a bondage. They used to hold a person with astral form and compel them to do what they want. That is the astral activity, black magic. So like this, several astral beings were sent to kill Krishna while he was just a child of few months. But all of them were destroyed. Because that is the Lord himself, so they cannot do that. So, if you consider as a Krishna as a human being, so how is this his life? But always he was quite normal. He was never agitated because he is the Lord. So this itself you can see that he is superhuman. Therefore, even while destroying the evil also, he was not angry.
Yeah.
He was not with emotion. He said they are being destroyed because of their wickedness, and they are coming and entering into me. Because they are not separate from the Lord.
Yeah.
That is what the Lord said in Bhagavad Gita also.
Everything.
But this is only the form what was
It's only the form.
not the being.
Not the being.
No?
God is
So this is the
everywhere.
question also with all the wars what we have here.
Yes.
So because these human beings are not lost, but they will get new forms for expression.
Better forms.
Yes. Ausdrucksträger in German is such a nice word. And,
You want a break for tea?
Maybe yes. You could have a...
now we
So a
get
little break for tea.
peppermint tea.
Continue until 6.
Until 5:30.
Until 5:30.
So therefore little break, not going out. Only little break. So in this third chapter, it is a dialogue between Bhishma and the blind king. The blind king, this fellow is making so many programs in a manner in which they end at the profitability for him and for his son, not even for the kingdom. So such wicked plans he is making. And for this, when he brings this plan into action, that will create difficulties for the common people. So Bhishma knows all this wicked nature of this fellow, because Bhishma is like a father and protector. So he he advises this, because this blind fellow, he wants to convince Bhishma so that Bhishma should approve his plans. That is his effort in this dialogue between these two. He wants to explain that all the programs, all his projects, what he has planned, they are for the good of the people. But Bhishma says, if you are really interested in the welfare of the people, how you are making the wicked plans? These are not right plans. What you are making. For example, he says, if you allow the village people to enjoy the resources, then they will become autocratic. So we have to put control on them in the form of taxes, so that they should be under our control. And so the resources, they should not be allowed to enjoy all those resources by themselves. Then Bhishma asks, who has given you the control? Because your brother is a good-natured fellow. He went to help the people. He allowed you to be on the throne. And also because I have sacrificed my rulership, that is why you are allowed to now sit on the throne and to rule. But even now, I can use my discretion, my power, to put you aside and establish once again an order to the kingdom. But this fellow says, when once you refuse, the power is gone from your hands. You cannot get the power once again. Then Bhishma says, if you believe only in the power, not in the welfare of people, you will feel like this. Because this blind fellow is a very clever fellow. He knows that Bhishma will never go back from his promise. So therefore he is quite confident that Bhishma will not take this power back into his hands. He thinks it is power, but Bhishma thinks it is not power, it is responsibility. So that is the dialogue. Bhishma says it is our responsibility to protect the people, to protect the law, and to be virtuous. But from the point of this fellow, he says it is power. We should keep our power and control and all these things. And Bhishma says you are not the person to control, because they are all working with good cooperation. All these people who are in the villages, they are protecting all the resources, they are working so they can enjoy out of their work. They are also sharing with other people. How can you expect you have a control on them? It's not good, he says. But this blind fellow does not easily accept these things from Bhishma. He wants to convince Bhishma according to his own plan. And he says that we have to employ officers who can have a watch on these fellows. So it is bureaucracy.
Stop.
And he says that and Bhishma asks him, from these taxes which you want to collect from them, what is your plan, what will you do? And he says, we have to make big buildings in the city, so that we have several departments in the buildings. And Bhishma says it is too foolish to make buildings which are useless. even if you collect the tax, you should use the tax again to provide what is needed for them, for the people.
Yeah.
You are not expected to make, because Bhishma knows that this fellow, he will create a department
For him.
in whom he can employ the fellows who are supporting him. He wants to create a department of building, a building department, an engineering department. So Bhishma says there is no need for such things. You can make everything simple so that people can live peacefully. You are creating unrest in the people by doing this. You are dividing the people. When you make some fellows as officers and to keep watch on the people who are righteous, then you are making a division of the people. Then this fellow says, unless you make a division, they will not be under our control, he says.
Yeah.
Divide and rule.
Yeah.
So at the end Bhishma says, I know all this is happening through you, from some higher force from the background, to bring you and your sons unto destruction. What you are doing, you feel that you are doing it for
You themselves.
for yourself and your sons, but you don't know that it is going to destroy you, all your clan, all your sons and everything. One day you have to face this. But that blind fellow says, no, I have to follow my plans. And Bhishma says, okay, do it and see what will happen. Because anyway, the Lord is coming down, then he is going to destroy all these things. Here it is very subtle point what Master projects. So Bhishma waits for the Lord to come down, but he himself can stop. But he is indifferent. That is what Master says. Even though Bhishma is very virtuous fellow, he is having so much of spiritualism in him, he is a devotee and all these things, but his indifference towards law made him to get subordinated to these fellows, because he has no obligation actually. It is his kingdom. Originally it is his kingdom. So he can stop all these things and he can make Pandavas, the Yudhishthira, directly he can make him a king. But he has certain sort of attachment to the blind king and his children. And he feels that, I have to protect the throne, the kingdom. Due to this false understanding, he has indirectly supported this, because when you may not support directly, but even if you support indirectly by not knowing also, you also will have to face the consequence. That is why Bhishma also has to get destroyed in the war. That is a very funny thing. Even knowing all these things, why he has supported these fellows. He tried to convince them, but it is not enough. If you know that something is wrong, you have to leave.
Yes.
Either you have to stop that or leave that. That is what he could not do, in spite of his so much virtuous life. So this is another message from this.
Otherwise we take the karma, even not knowingly.
And then, when we pass on to the 4th chapter of this, that is a very funny situation. This Kamsa, he is a very wicked fellow. He has imprisoned his father. Because his father was made the ruler of for that area of the kingdom for which Krishna's father was the ruler. He made father of Kamsa. The father of Kamsa, his name was Ugrasena.
And the son imprisoned the father.
Yeah. He imprisoned his father because his father did not support him in all this evil activity.
Uk.
Ugra.
Ugra. U-G-R-A.
Ugrasena.
Ugrasena.
So the father did not support him
Das ist ja bad.
in making all the evil acts. And so therefore he imprisoned his father. He imprisoned his sister and brother-in-law because their 8th child is going to kill him with the spear. And the funny thing is, he wants to receive initiation from Narada into Vasudeva mantra.
Put in prison.
Yeah.
And he supports that. He gives clarification why he put his father into prison.
And then he invites Narada. So Narada appears before him and he asks, "What for you have called me?" He says, "I want your blessings. I want your initiation into Vasudeva mantra." For what? Narada asks, for what? He says, by this mantra I'll have more power. Again, I will be empowered. Narada explained that what is the meaning of Vasudeva mantra. Vasudeva means the Lord in the form of the behavior of other people around you. When you are not able to experience the Lord consciousness in others' behavior, how can you expect to have an initiation? How can you expect yourself fit to be initiated? For what purpose? He says, what you are doing, all the things, all the deeds what you are doing are wrong deeds. You have imprisoned your father. Then he says, of course, because I am the ruler, whoever comes on the way, I have to put them aside.
Out of the way.
The father was
Somebody
not the
ca-
ruler before.
Huh?
His
Father was,
he was the ruler.
he was
before.
made the ruler by father of Krishna.
Uh-huh.
Actually, the kingdom belongs to Krishna's father.
And
So-
Ugrasena, he was never a ruler,
He was not the actual ruler
but never before.
before, but he made him.
That. Mm.
So this is not acceptable for Kamsa. He thinks that my father is unfit to be a ruler because he don't do all these wicked things. He feels that a ruler must have all this
Power over
Power.
people.
power, lust and all these things. Huh?
What type of you?
He was not educated or what?
No, he says I am a good person, that's why I didn't kill my father.
Ah, he says that.
So I just imprisoned him.
I just
That's true, he could have killed him.
he says he questions Narada that don't you know that I am a good person because I have not killed my father, I have not killed my sister and her husband, just I imprisoned them.
What mental symptoms is strange.
They are different views, eh?
Yeah.
Here's the bis zum nächsten
Ja.
Mal. Bye bye.
Good person.
He tries to support his argument.
The logic is very interesting.
Yeah. he says, he tells Narada, I know that you are a great sage and you know past, future and everything. So you must know these things. Then Narada puts another question. Why you have killed all children? Huh? Because the prophecy is that the 8th child will kill you. So then why should you kill other 6 children before?
Make sure.
And he says, since I am the king, it is one of my duty to kill whenever it is necessary. He says. And also he makes another logic. All this killing and it is done by my body, not by my soul.
And mantra is for soul.
He says that I asked you to initiate me on soul level. It is my body who is doing all these things. So what is the problem? He asks Narada. Very queer logic he uses. Now you find this similar logic in many people. Huh?
That's really.
Huh?
They dare to be.
Yeah. And then finally Narada says, since you feel sincerely like this, then anyway your sister is pregnant with the 8th pregnancy. So why you are in a hurry? You just wait for a few months.
And kill them.
Then if you could kill the 8th child, who was according to the prophecy, then I will accept a defeat and I will follow you. Huh? Then suppose, then I can do whatever you say. Huh? And you wait until that time. That's what Narada says. And the chapter ends. Narada tried to enlighten him, but this fellow blocks himself. Even when sometimes masters or holy people try to enlighten, if we block ourselves, they are helpless. If you close yourself, that is the situation with this fellow. And because he is driven by his karma, that is on the background. Because anyway he is not going to change, so he has to get away. He cannot continue like that. So therefore he behaves like that only. But the rishis, they will not stop their effort. They always try to transform. If there is any little chance, they try to transform the wicked persons also. So they will give a chance until the end. You know, in Ramayana also, when finally Rama and Ravana were confronted, because Ravana did not appear before Rama until all his other people were killed. Because he was also, even though he is a very valorous fellow, but still he is inside a timid fellow. He could have come in the very beginning before Rama, but he did not. He sent all his very powerful chiefs of army and his big army, his chiefs of army, and then he sent his son, he sent his brother. When all of were destroyed, then finally he came before Rama to fight with Rama. So then Rama, within no time, first broke all his weapons, his chariot and everything, and made him to stand without anything, and said to him, now if I want, I can kill you within no time, but I give you a chance once again to think over. If you reconcile and you go back home, think over this night, what you have done is wrong, realize this, and I am giving you a chance that you can bring my wife and hand over to me and surrender to me, then I will excuse you even now. So Ravana went back. He felt ashamed. But he didn't, once again he came to fight with Rama finally. He did not utilize the chance. So always the Lord always gives a chance to us, to anybody, to rectify ourselves. Similarly, the rishis, they will try until the last whether any chance is there to rectify this fellow. When there is no chance, then they leave. The same thing here between Narada and this fellow. He tried to convince Narada, on the other hand, according to his logic. So that is about this. And the other chapter, chapter 5, is, it is the chapter where Master explains about the situation, what the soldiers of this Kamsa are doing in the villages. Kamsa used to send his soldiers into the villages to frighten the people in the village, so that they will have to pay taxes and they will have to hand over their resources, so that they can be cornered. And there was a cousin of this Kamsa whose name was Casey. And this fellow is also a wicked fellow. And he got some tantric powers, negative powers, not real tantric, but some astral type of powers. And so Kamsa wants to be friendly with him, and he made him also his advisor. So this fellow, he takes advantage of this, because both are wicked fellows, selfish and wicked fellows. So the Casey knows that Kamsa is dependent upon him. So he wants to take advantage of this. So from all the resources, from all these things which are collected, he takes half of these things for him. Remaining half he gives to Kamsa. So he made his own followers. He employed his own fellows. So he sends his own fellows also simultaneously. So the people have to, they have to pay, they have to hand over to the fellows sent by Kamsa, and also to the fellows sent by Casey. So a double impact on the people. These are like robbers. They are from the government, but they act like robbers. They want to accumulate the wealth by forcefully taking from the people. That is their behavior. And this fellow is connected to the blind king also. So he has to send some part of what he received to the blind king. It's also, all this is a channel of corruption. So this Casey fellow, he is an advisor to Kamsa. So he has his position in the government of Kamsa. Simultaneously he has his own collections. And the blind king has his people who are the informants. This is his own intelligence, personal intelligence fellows. And they make estimate of what these fellows are doing. So therefore he knows this. So he has to pay a part to the blind king. So it is it is exactly what is happening now. Everybody wants to accumulate wealth for his personal, not for the kingdom, not for society. Even though he is a ruler, but he wants to have his personal money, personal riches, all these things. So that is the mentality of these fellows. So therefore, when this is increasing, then these people in the village, because they follow the instructions of Vasudeva, father of Krishna. So Vasudeva said, you should train yourself to resist these fellows. Don't give any more, don't pay the taxes, because that is not needed at all. So he told these village people to get trained in certain way, also with martial arts, so that they can stop these fellows coming into the village, and don't pay, because it is all this what you are paying is not benefiting, it is not any benefit to the people, not any benefit to the kingdom. It is only going for the personal benefit of the blind king in the center and these wicked fellows here. So Vasudeva sent a word to the village people. So the village people gathered all the young people and trained them with martial arts, and they started to resist. And whenever the people of Kamsa or people of Kesi come into the villages, so they resisted them. They said, we are not going to hand over to you all these things. So please go away without any struggle. If you make violence, we will not keep quiet now. So when they made violence, these people could retaliate this. This is what the instruction they received. So this started in the villages. It is not like a civil war, but people self-protection.
Yeah.
When this started, this was, for Kamsa and Kesi, this was not a good feeling. They did not expect this unity in the people. They wanted to divide the people, but the people are getting united. So this is not a good thing for them.
But this divide and rule we had for the last 2000 years.
Yes, that is what is happening. Everywhere. So Vasudeva said that we should not allow this divide and rule type of policy. So we have to resist this and use our resources for the common people, for the common good, not to feed these wicked fellows anymore. Because otherwise what we are producing something with our efforts, all this is going to feed these wicked fellows.
Yeah.
If this is allowed to continue, we also will be part of it. Therefore Vasudeva said, no more this. There are about 500 villages like this. So in all these villages they started, they fixed one day and said, from this day onwards we are not going to pay anything to these fellows. Stop. And they could resist any violence also. And this was very surprise, and this was unexpected thing for these wicked fellows. And they don't know from how these villagers are, they become, how they train.
And it was Vasudeva who was organizing all this resistance.
Even though he is in the prison, Vasudeva, father of Krishna, he is in the prison in Mathura. But even then he has contacts, these people coming and going. So from time to time they received instructions from him how they have to, because he was the real king for them. So he is peace-loving person, he is a very peaceful person, and he told them also, we don't make violence, we will be peaceful, but we have to resist them. We will not make any violence upon them. And also he told them, to those fellows who come to make aggression, you try to explain them. If they agree to, you also let them join you. That's what he said. Because after all, they are employed by these wicked fellows. They are also enslaved there. So you can explain them. If they want to be liberated, so let them join with you. Let them also work with you and enjoy this. Because that is the right way of doing. So then, most of them, they were fed up with the policies of these fellows. So they left their slavery with them, and then they joined this movement. So this became stronger. This movement in the villages became much more stronger, and therefore these two fellows are very much afraid of this. And this became stronger. They could not understand how this is happening. Because already Krishna is growing there in these villages. They could not locate actually, because Kamsa sent so many of these evil beings, and then they were destroyed. So he was not able to understand where this fellow is there, this boy, and how he is surviving. He has no information. So this was in the 5th chapter. This was what Master has given, a description of how these village people, they followed the instructions, and then how they built up their activity, how they could protect themselves from these fellows, how with cooperation they are working, all the villages, how they are enjoying the presence of Krishna as a boy, little boy with them. So this was in this chapter. So in the 6th chapter, it is a chapter which takes us to Himalayas. In the Himalayas, this Pandu, he made an ashram there in the Himalayas, where his sons were born. At this time, Krishna was a boy, a growing boy, and Pandavas are also growing. When you compare the ages, Arjuna and Krishna were of the same age. Krishna was only 11 days older than Arjuna.
I see.
And the mother of Arjuna is Kunti? or-
Kunti.
Yeah.
Kunti is the sister of Vasudeva. Kunti, the mother of Pandavas, was the sister of Vasudeva. Vasudeva is the father of Krishna.
Before time, I think.
They are all.
They are cousins.
They are all.
Yes. They are all one royal family.
Related.
Yes.
They all married
It's a
together.
it's a good relationship. Yeah.
And this Kunti was adopted by another king. She was adopted by another king who has no children. And actually the name of mother of Pandavas, her original name is not Kunti. Her name is Prutha.
Kundi is Prutta.
Her original name is Prutha. This name was given by her biological father. The biological father of Kunti was Shurasena.
Surasena.
Yeah.
This is the father of.
Father of Kunti and also father of Vasudeva. That means he is the grandfather of Krishna.
No.
So this Surasena has a son, Vasudeva, and a daughter, that is Prutha.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And this daughter was adopted by another king who is a friend of him, who has no children. And that name of that king is Kunti Bhoja. Adopted father of Kunti. His name was Kunti Bhoja. So because of him, she was called Kunti.
Kunti. Kunti Pyoha.
Kunti Bhoja. Bhoja.
Ocha.
Bhoja. So this Pandu, husband of Kunti, so he lived most of the time in the last phase of his life, mostly in the Himalayas. Now also that place is there. It is called Pandukeswar in now, this village on the mountains. When we go to Badrinath, we cross this village. I have seen this village, Pandukeswar. It's a very beautiful place on the high mountains in Himalayas. So he was staying there. And so this 6th chapter takes us to that place where this Pandu, his wife Kunti and another wife Madri were staying. And so this chapter is, in this chapter it starts with the a dialogue between Kunti and there's another person. Shatagopa. So this Shatagopa, he came from this cluster of villages where Krishna is growing. So this Shatagopa is the father of Radha. But father means not biological father. Radha was brought up by Shatagopa and his wife. Shatagopa and his wife is Madhavi.
This is his wife.
Yes. So, these are the father and mother who brought up Radha. So this Shatagopa, he is actually one of the 4 Kumaras. He is Sanat Sujata. So these also, because these 4 Kumaras are on the very high plane, in the cosmic, supracosmic planes. He is higher. So they also descended into physical form to cooperate with the Lord in the work. So this Shatagopa is Sanat Sujata. So this Shatagopa is one of the main persons responsible in these villages to carry out this work of all this village activity, to keep this in a good direction, along with the adopted father of Krishna. Because Krishna was, his father was, Vasudeva was in prison, so he was sent into the village. He is Nanda. Nanda is the adopted father of Krishna. Nanda and Yashoda. You know this, previously I told you. Nanda. Nanda Gopa. And his wife Yashoda. These were the parents where Krishna was growing in those villages. So Shatagopa is one of the persons of this village who is in good co-worker of Nandagopa, and Shatagopa is Sanat Sujata. So from time to time, Shatagopa goes into Himalayas, because all these rishis, they have their spiritual center in the Himalayas. From there they are working. Even now, the rishis. So Shatagopa from time to time goes to Himalayas. So he came to these Himalayas and he visited Pandu and Kunti. So this is, in this 6th chapter is the chapter where he visits his Pandu and Kunti and their children. So at that time, Kunti is there at home. Pandu went out, and Kunti is asking about the welfare of her brother Vasudeva, because she knows Vasudeva was imprisoned by Kamsa. Vasudeva and his wife Devaki, the mother and father of Krishna, were imprisoned. So she wants to know how they are and all these details. He wants to know how Krishna also in the village, because he also knows that always Kamsa is making his trials to kill Krishna. So, therefore, Kunti wanted to know about the welfare of her brother and his wife, how Kamsa is treating them, what is the situation of the people in the villages, because she is also worried about all this harassment that the councils of Kamsa are doing in the villages. So she asks Satagopa, and Satagopa explains about the situation, and Kunti asks Satagopa, how long still all these wicked things should go on? How long such good people are kept in the prison? Because Vasudeva and Devaki, they were in prison for 12 years, more than 12 years. Because all the children were born in the prison only. When Krishna became boy of 12 years, then he went to Mathura and then he killed this Kamsa. So, for many years, more than 12 years, they spent in prison. They have to spend in prison. Of course, the prison was, conditions in the prison was not like the prisoners, but that is like a sort of house arrest.
Yeah,
So they have food, they have everything provided, but not allowed to go anywhere and not allowed to speak to anybody. But the rishis and holy persons, they used to visit them because they come in, nobody can stop them.
yeah.
They come in their higher bodies and they can manifest there. So the persons who were at the prison, so from time to time they used to give information to Kamsa that somebody, because we were there outside, nobody we see, but we hear sometimes some strange voices inside the prison speaking to Vasudeva and Devaki. So this also increased suspicion in the mind of Kamsa. So he used to suspect even his own fellows who are the officers of the prison. So from time to time he used to change them. Because he suspects everybody. These wicked fellows, even now, they cannot trust anybody. Even those who are closely associated to them also, sometimes he don't trust them also. So the same character we have Kamsa. So he always changes the officers. He changes also the normal persons who are there employed at the prison. So like this, he wants to have make sure that they will not go out. But even after Krishna was, he went away, but even then, if he is wise, he should release them, because he could not kill the 8th child. He knows that the 8th child is growing. This Krishna was growing in somewhere in the villages. So he could have released his sister and her husband. Because there is no meaning in keeping them in prison. But even then he did not release them, he did not release his father, because he feels if these fellows will come out, they will come in his way to do all the wicked things with people. So in his view, they are to be kept in the prison so that he can continue his power and all these things.
This is the point.
Because in the beginning he has put them in prison because the child who is to be delivered will kill him. But now he knows the child is growing outside somewhere, but even then he did not release them. So here Kunti, and then meanwhile the Pandu enters, coming from, and with Pandu his elder son Yudhishthira, who is a little boy, and his second son Bhima, who is another little boy, and then Arjuna, still a child. Because
The first one is
Yudhishthira.
Yudhishthira.
Yudhishthira, the first one. And second one is Bhima. And she has also the third child already. She was still pregnant with the third child, because yet Krishna is not born. Before that, this chapter, Krishna is not yet born. Devaki was pregnant with Krishna, and here Kunti was pregnant with Arjuna at that time still. So in this chapter, so then was this Satagopa, Pandu comes back, and then they have a dialogue, and he explains, he asks about how the two boys are there, how they are doing. Then this Pandu explains that the second boy, even though he is of 2 years boy, but he is terribly strong fellow. And Kunti says one day he slipped and he fell on a rock, and the rock was broken into pieces. And the boy of 2 years, he did not even cry, he did not care for that. So he was so strong, Bhima, even from the beginning. And also she says that this fellow can take a good amount of food. He can drink all the honey given by these tribal people. They bring so much of honey, and he himself, this child, can drink so much of honey, so much of milk, and so much of food. He is so strong, he explains from the beginning. And so in this chapter, Satagopa and Pandu, they exchange their views about the activities of this Kamsa and these wicked fellows, and also about this blind king and what they are doing with the people and all these things. So this is the chapter. The chapter 6 is with that. And then the 7th chapter takes to another dimension.
You need some light.
Yes,
it is
better.
better for video.
For video also. Put on the light, please.
The right one. No,
No.
it's not the wrong one.
So it is the left one. You said the right
The
one.
left one,
yeah, I was
the left
sitting-
one is the right
It's the right
switch.
one.
Yeah, the left one is the right one.
I understood right on the right side.
Like how the Russians say prava. Prava.
Prava. Naleva.
Anyway, it's not very difficult to stop.
So the seventh chapter, it takes to us into another dimension.
C'était le juste. Moi j'ai entendu.
This is
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I was sitting with the back to the switch.
Ah,
This
et
is
moi
the
j'ai
right.
entendu, c'est celui qui est à droite.
Now you are right. She has to stop like this.
There is another very mighty fellow. He is called Jarasandha. This also, I think last time you have written down the name.
I don't remember.
Don't remember, huh? This Jarasandha. His mother is the cousin sister of Kunti. So he is from another kingdom.
Il est de la famille.
He is. You?
There is another dynasty.
Ah.
Running
same
a room for
family.
dynasties.
No, his mother is the cousin sister of Kunti, but not his father is from another dynasty.
Ah. Il a de-
So there is another kingdom which is now in one of our northern states, Bihar. It is called Bihar. Now, at the moment, at present.
Bihar.
Bihar is one.
Where is it?
It is besides Bengal. You know Bengal?
West
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
So just
Near
besides
Calcutta,
Bengal.
not
Huh?
far from Calcutta.
Yeah, it is not far from Calcutta. It is the next state for Calcutta.
Down.
Up.
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 Up. Okay. On the way to Burma.
Yes.
That is to the east, but this is just above.
To the north,
Just
Yeah,
above
just
Bengal.
above and a little west,
Okay.
northwest
northwest.
to Bengal.
Mhm.
So this Jarasandha, he has also this wrong tantric powers, negative tantric powers. But he studied Vedas. He has his guru.
He
So-
just now released.
So his father, when he has no children, then this father has a guru, and his father's name is Brihadratha.
So this is his father?
Yeah. Brihadratha. That is the name of father of Jarasandha. So this, his guru was there. It's called Chanda Kausika. So this Chanda Kausika was very conversant, very scholar in the Vedas, but he is very Rajasic.
This is a teacher.
Is the teacher. So he is very Rajasic and most he uses emotion.
Chandra Kausika.
Chanda Kausika. So this fellow, he has very many tantric powers. He uses Vedic mantras for tantric powers, and then so this Chanda Kausika, he has given certain initiation to Brihadratha, and with this mantra he has worshipped the world mother in the form of Jara. Jara, there is a form of the world mother.
Jara. This is the earth. Jara.
Jara. So, with the grace of this, Jarasandha was born. That is why he is given the name Jarasandha.
Yeah.
So this Jarasandha